Direct from Amityville Memorial High School, this is Coach's Corner, streaming to you live on the Amityville Broadcasting Network, the number one place for Amityville news and sports. I'm your host, Godfrey Pons, and with me right now is fellow co-host Gregory Dickerson. Behind the scenes, we have producers Mr. Shimino and Dina Wood. Today on Coach's Corner, we are interviewing with Coach William Kretz, the varsity football coach at the high school. Coach Kretz, thank you for meeting with us today.
Thank you for having me, guys. Thank you very much for having me.
So, first question of the day, the coronavirus, obviously, a big factor, right, in sports. Social distancing and masks seem like they're not going away anytime soon. And football seems like it's the exact opposite of what any health organization recommends. How has the football team been preparing for this upcoming season in order to keep in touch with the protocols?
Godfrey, that is definitely the question of the year. Needless to say, I have not physically been able to see my student athletes for over a calendar year at this point. And then right there starts the frustration of dealing with COVID itself. Dating back to when we originally shut down, we had weight room sessions daily in the off season. And as soon as we shut down, we had many unknowns of what was going to take place moving forward. So all the way back to March, we started doing Google Zooms. We had opportunities to speak with different athletes of all walks of life. We had several NFL athletes with the help of Darrell Young, who linked us up with a lot of the opportunities to speak with these men who have been successful at the highest level. So from the get-go, my goal was to try to get the student athlete's mind off of the world that we were living in. And, ultimately, it was a way to maybe just start to forget about what was going on in the world around them for those couple, half hour or so when we had those Zoom meetings. As mentioned, I have not been able to physically see kids since last February and March. And through the summer, of course, there was hope that September would come around and we'd be able to play. So again, keeping in touch and keeping an eye on everyone to see what's going on to help. Hopefully their families are doing well, etc. But really, since last year, the goal, yes, was to be there for the kids football wise, but us as a staff, also as parents, we're trying to be there for the kids in the other things that are more important, where their family's health, their schoolwork, and their own well-being. So ultimately, again, you talk about COVID and coronavirus and this pandemic. It's been a process. We're not over it. We start March 1st. And without myself rambling on here, COVID guidelines definitely will be in the forefront of safety of our athletes. There are strict guidelines we must follow, and to say the least, we're in uncharted waters because this is the first time that we've ever played, obviously during the pandemic, but also played March football. That is definitely something new that we're all looking forward to.
So, as you mentioned, sports is a big distraction for these students from the real world. So, would you say that would be a major driving force for the team moving so far in the year?
100%. Oh, I'm sorry.
So it's like it would be an inspiration for all the spectators.
100%. And, we saw from the get-go when sports shut down, we saw a transition. Even baseball itself, Major League Baseball, was shut down for a short period of time. And as we know, in many moments throughout, America's history, anytime that we've had tragedy, comes triumph on the field of play. And, when we started to see sports come back and at the professional level and the college level, it gave us hope. And, that's what, this year is what we want to set out to do, especially as the adults in the program. We want to make sure that these young men have an opportunity to leave it all in the field. And it's cliche. It's something that we've used over the years in general, but as a distraction to the world around them, because we know we all have things going on in individual lives, but the opportunity to let it all in the field and to lose yourself, not to use that term, but on the field, will definitely, garner steps towards normalcy. We'll use that term, our new norm, I guess.
Very true. So over the last year, there was we've been in a months-long quarantine by now, right? So far, many people have been forced to stay at home with their families, and as a result, many people can't leave their houses. I've seen some football players practicing at Field of Dreams, but I know that's not. I know there's still people that still haven't gone outside and practiced for over a year. Would you be willing to push your team harder this year to catch up lost ground, or would you be willing to, in a sense, take it easy on them since we are in uncharted waters, as you say?
You know, we do need to make up for lost time. I'll use that term very lightly. However, sacrificing these young men's health is not something that we're going to do. Health and safety. There are concerns in my mind of what we're going to deal with, especially of those who have not had the athletic, workouts, football-related workouts. And in general, it's going to be very difficult to simulate, or has been very difficult for them to simulate what a real practice and real football games would incur. So right now, the goal is to be very creative with how we do train and how we do start our season, to prepare them safely, to prepare them smart. And as you mentioned about pushing them, I mean, me and obviously my student athletes know me, is that I will give them everything they got. The coaching staff is going to give them everything they got. And, likewise, it should be reciprocated where, they have an opportunity, in front of them. If they want to make the most of it, it's going to be something that we're all going to have to work together as a team. Ultimately, again, it's uncharted waters, but, we're all in it together.
Is this year gonna be different from last year, or what do we expect to see from players?
Gregory, we're already in new, everything's new. Different ain't the word these days, buddy.
So what do you expect to see from the players?
What I do want to see definitely is that drive and desire, almost that fresh outlook to start something that we haven't been able to do in such a long time. And that's where you talk about the emotions of football. I want to see hunger. I want to see them really dive deep into the opportunity they have, because as we know, these type of opportunities can be taken away from us and in a split second. And we've lived through it. We've had many of us who have lost loved ones throughout this whole process. And and maybe it's a way to almost dedicate our opportunity that we have ahead of us, and to really in their good name and really in their respect for them passing, that maybe we could carry out the season in their honor.
Coach Kurtz, you talk about families losing their loved ones. So over the past summer, we've seen many Black families lose many of their loved ones, right? So how would you use your team as like a platform for social change? Like over the summer, we've seen all these protests, all these radical movements, all these petitions. How would you contribute to that with the team?
Godfrey, great question. As mentioned, when we initially shut down, the goal was to keep connection with these young men. Us, again, as coaches and adults and fathers, we wanted to make sure that our kids were still doing okay. And to say the least, between the virus, between the protests, there were many days, dark days. We'll use that term. And ultimately, a lot of sorrow and pain that came out of this past year. When we did link up, as mentioned, with Darrell Young, and I linked up with another alumni, and we reached out to the local county sheriff, and he had the opportunity to speak to these young men also, not just about the virus, but also and pandemic, also about the injustices that are around in our world, unfortunately. So where we've seen a lot of change happen, obviously, with the election, etc. But by no means are we over that hill yet. But I do believe that these young men, through experience and through the future coming soon, they're going to be part of the change that's going to occur in our world, which are a well needed change in our society.
Very true. Coach Kurtz, as I know, you used to be a football player, right?
Long time ago.
So does your former experience as a football player contribute? How does that contribute to your experience as a coach right now? Would you say that it motivates you, pushes you so that they can experience what you experienced?
Exactly what you said, Bud. If I can give just half the experience that I had in my playing career, I know that no matter what, I'll be successful. Football, as mentioned, is a family. Athletics is something that teaches young men and women life lessons, how to fight through adversity, ups and downs, how to fight from behind. When everything seems lost, got to get up and keep moving forward. And all those lessons that I learned at a young age, playing sports, playing football particularly, some days were more difficult than others. But it's how you now, after you get knocked down again, how you get up. And it's something that I've strived to do. And I'm an emotional person. I invest my full heart and soul into what I do with these kids. And I think right there is where they see my emotional attachment, and they see how much I care. They see how much I want them to be successful. It's not about me. It's about these young men to be successful on and off the field. And that's something, again, from my experience as a youth playing sports and playing football, I try to trickle down and teach them the same way that, they should have no regrets. They should have appreciate the experience and the honor to be playing on the athletic fields, because, as mentioned before, sometimes these things unfortunately be taken away from us. So every moment they have to appreciate that where they are.
Coach Kurtz, it seems like football is a very important thing for you, very important part of your life. I don't have any more questions, so I think that about wraps it up. Do you have any final thoughts to say to the audience?
Nothing but except that obviously I appreciate the experience to be on here. This is an amazing platform for you guys to be able to speak to the different athletic coaches, obviously, and players, etc. But ultimately, again, as mentioned, we've had a long year, and we're all looking forward to get back to some sort of normalcy. Translating to hopefully a couple wins on the football field this year. And as always, we have high expectations for young men on and off the field. So I appreciate it. Go Amityville. And we hope to see everybody very soon. And again, Godfrey and Gregory, I appreciate you having me on.
Well, good luck to you and your team, Coach Kurtz. I wish you many wins this year. Thank you, Coach, for coming. I wish you the best of luck. And thank you to my co-host, Gregory Dickerson, for coming. Special thank you to Mr. Cimino and Dina for background production. This has been Coach's Corner with Coach William Kretz of the varsity football team. I'm your host, Godfrey Pons, and thank you for tuning into the Amityville Broadcasting Network.